Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tapas Talkies. I'm Preeti Vikram, your host for today. I have with me a very, very, very dear person to my heart, Dr. Swati Popat. Vats. She needs no introduction, but I'm going to give it anyway because it just gives me so much joy. Dr. Swati Popat Vats is the president of the Podar Education Network. She is the director of Podar Jammu Kids, president of Early Childhood Education. It's it is India's foremost association for maintaining the quality of early childhood education and care. Dr. Swati Popat Vats is an author. She has written books for children, for parents, and for educators. One of my favorites is Zelda the Zebra. I treasure it even till today. And the parenting books have given a lot of joy to many parents and taught them quite a lot. Dr. Vats has presented in multiple international forums for advocating for the best practices in early childhood and children's rights. And one of the most mentionable ones is that she has presented in the House of Lords. So Dr. Vats, a warm welcome to you. She has also been instrumental in the last couple of years in ensuring that policymakers understand early childhood and ensure that the policies that are coming out in this country are tuned to the needs of the children. So it gives me great pleasure to be talking to you today.
Thank you so much, Preeti. It is a pleasure to be part of this wonderful initiative, Tapas Talkies, and it's an honor.
So personally, she has been a mentor for me. I have become an educator and become a parent after I started listening to Swati ma'am. And so I think I'm doing fairly okay in both aspects as an educator as well as a parent. My son has turned out quite all right, ma'am. So I think it has been all due to the kind of orientations I've been listening to you almost from 19 years now. So it's been a pleasure growing in this journey with you. So I think first question that I have for you is something that is the big elephant in the room. It's about what do you think about the changes that have happened in the last couple of years with regards to one, of course, the pandemic hitting, and so the education industry changing, and two, right about the same time, the national education policy being released. So your thoughts on what are the changes that you've witnessed?
I think, Preeti, education was in a mess. I don't think we were ready to accept how much of a mess, but it was in a mess before the pandemic. And I think the pandemic in some way has made us realize and revisit our idea of education. Because, pre-pandemic, we used to say technology is bad and don't do this and don't do that. And the pandemic, we were only immersed in technology. And we realized that it's not technology which is bad, it is how we use technology. Because technology was the only savior that we had during this pandemic. So going forth, we need to understand that instead of keeping children away from technology, we need to make technology a part of their life and help them deal with technology so that it becomes their strength and not their weakness. And if you see, schools were becoming more and more closed, enclosed, more inside rather than outside. And I think the pandemic has made us go back to what the initial theorists like Frederick Frobel or Gijubai Badeka all were talking about, that school is not just about a classroom. It is an experience based on learning, and it has to happen more, if not all, in nature. And that is a realization I think that we've got because of being out of nature for almost 18 months. I think when we reopen, more schools are going to give more fresh air to children, give them more experiences in nature. And it's going to be a brilliant world where we will see a combination of nature and technology for the first time. Both will become important in children's lives.
That's a beautiful take, ma'am. I agree. I think that we're all requiring more and more vitamin D through tablets. Unfortunately, we're not getting enough of it through the natural system. So actually, At Tapas, what we have done is each of our environment, that is each of our classroom, has a little bit of an outdoor and an indoor. So children can choose to sit outdoor and do work and come back indoor. So I'm hoping that kind of helps in the vitamin D part of it at least.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you've been working closely with policymakers regarding the national education policy, and ECA has also released a book about what from policy to practice. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
So we have released 2 books on policy. One was when the Women and Child Development Ministry came out with the ECE policy. So that's when we came out with our first book, From Policy into Practice, of the ECE policy. Recently, when the government of India came out with the new national education policy, everybody was kind of, overwhelmed that, oh, what do we do? How do we do? I think it's one of India's best education policies till date. I haven't seen a better document ever when it comes to education in our country. It has come out with the finesse with which it has been documented, the experts who have been involved in it, and the follow-up documents that have come out, like Sarthak or Nipun. It makes you feel proud that India is taking its education seriously, and it is giving a chance to its citizens to be global and local. That is very important. And this is what we wanted, that when people read the policy, it should take them to the implementation level. And that's why we came out with this book, National Education Policy, From Policy into Practice. So it's authored by Dr. Rita Sonawat and myself. And we've done a lot of workshops on this for schools, because, sometimes as educators and parents, we focus on the unimportant things. Like the policy says mother tongue is important. So everybody gets worried, oh, how will we have mother tongue in the classroom and all that. So it's very important that when a policy comes out, you have experts also giving a way ahead to the schools to help them unravel the policy and what it means into developmentally applicable practices. And that's what we've done with this book. It's available on Amazon, it's available on the ECA website. And I urge more and more educators should read that book.
I really like what you said, being global and at the same time having the local flavor.
Yes.
I think the word for it is local. That's a new word that has
local.
been local. That has been
local.
Yeah. And
yes.
For me, it's really exciting. Like you said, this is, I think, one of the best policies that India has come out with. And it's really
Yes.
exciting that for the first time in India, early childhood has been addressed in an education policy. And
absolutely.
And the word play-based education features in it. I think that itself is a great joy for all of us.
Preeti, when we talk about experiential learning for the older classrooms or older children, what is experiential learning? Parents don't understand that play is your first experience of experiential learning. So you can't have experiential learning in the higher classrooms and say there shouldn't be play in the lower classrooms, because both are two sides of the same coin.
Absolutely agree, ma'am. Absolutely agree. And I think seeing how the age groups have been defined in the national education policy and the importance that's been given to the foundation stage, that is something that's really exciting for all of us, because now even the first and second grades are going to be treated with the same respect that the early childhood requires. So I think that's something that I'm really excited about. So considering that so much changes have happened because of the pandemic and then because of the national education policy, how should parents really react to this? Do you think parents should do anything to adapt themselves to the changes that are happening?
I think one of the most important changes that have happened because of the pandemic is the partnership between parents and schools. Parents have realized that schools that partner with them are better schools, and schools have realized that if you partner with parents, only then you are a success story. So I think parents should trust the schools in the implementation of the policy. They should make them aware of what the policy means, because usually parents don't have the time to read policies, especially education related policies. They feel that's for something for the schools to do. I think it's important for parents to read the policy, for them to get a better understanding and support the school of their child in ensuring that the child's rights, when it comes to what is stated in the policy, are achieved. And that is the role of parents. It's not just about marks and grades and fees. I wish the parents in India would move away from all that. I'm not saying they are not important, but they shouldn't be the be all and end all of everything that the parent focuses on. It's a part of education. But what about the other part? What about what is right for the child? What about the quality that the school is giving you where the education is concerned? Everything cannot be weighed in marks and grades. And I think that's what this pandemic has taught, that exams were useless. Marks and grades went completely for a toss. And ultimately, these children who have spent 2 years in schools during the pandemic are going to become very different individuals, because they would have something called resilience. They have seen a pandemic, they have experienced a pandemic, they have adjusted to a pandemic. So cognitive flexibility is going to be the highest in this group of children. And that is what the parents need to remember, that these are children who will be quick to adapt to change. They will want different things. So it is important that they follow the lead of the school when it comes to understanding not only the policy, but their children and the way the education is moving forward.
I think that's a brilliant point when you speak about the school and the parent partnership. And I've seen that during the pandemic, only the schools who were transparent and reached out to parents were the ones who thrived. And the others really struggled because there was a lot of backlash from the parenting community. They didn't understand what was happening. So you're right in that. I remember in one of the sessions that I had attended of yours, you had mentioned that the first thing we should do if this country has to be rid with the romance towards marks and grades is to get rid of children's photos being printed in the newspaper when they get these 90.
Yes.
That's something
Yes.
I heard from you.
Absolutely. Because Preeti, it is so sad that a child who has got 88 percentage has worked that much hard and has done everything that who has got 90%. But is the 90% child whose face is plastered in the school, plastered on the banners and plastered in the newspapers? Have we ever thought how it must be making the other children feel? It almost makes them feel inconsequential, that, I didn't matter. I mean, look at them celebrating those children and not me. You are starting their adult life with a feeling of inadequacy. And newspapers, of course, won't think about that because they're getting money. And it's the parents who have to think about these. It's parents who have to take a stand and say, this needs to stop because it's harming my child.
Just keeping in line with the same thought, at Tapas, we've ensured that parents understand that if you want to have tuitions for your child, Tapas is not the school for you. If ever you want to go into that stream, please don't enroll with Tapas at all, right? From the beginning. And
absolutely,
of course, formative assessments. We don't have grades. We made sure that children are learning through the year, and the formative assessment is actually informing the teacher how they have to plan the lesson. So we've kind of kept all that you've said in mind and made sure Tapas is functioning like that.
You know what? I think what you're trying with Tapas is actually what is education, what education is actually supposed to be. Education is not supposed to make the child know its weaknesses. And that's what we do with marks and grades. Education is supposed to celebrate the child's achievements, what the child's strengths are, in such a way that the child then has the strength to overcome its weakness. That's what education is. But I think schools have forgotten that. And that's why schools like Tapas will now be able to rejuvenate the school system.
That is the hope, man. That's definitely the hope. So you spoke a little bit about play-based education, project-based experiential learning. Do you think that's the way of the future? Do you think that, especially because the policy that NEP is talking about it, and we know that that's how education should be, do you see a future that all schools are going to become like that?
They should. I saw schools and parents celebrating Finland for quite some time. Why Finland? Finland has only a play-based curriculum. Um, I just released a book this week on Frederick Frobel, who's the father of kindergarten, who started with play. Gijubai Badeka, or anybody that you know as a theorist, Maria Montessori, they all believe in play. Why? And they are people who set up 150 years back, 200 years back. So 200 years back, without neuroscience research, they knew the impact that play has on children's development. 200 years hence, now we are coming out with a policy that says play-based education, and we are still confused whether that's the right way ahead. So what is it that we want to make us believe that yes, play is important? Simply put, Preeti, parents need to understand that the right brain in the child develops first, and the right brain thrives on play, and the right brain is in charge of long-term memory. So if you want children to remember what they have learned, if you want children to become smarter, things will have to go in their right brain. And the best way to get things into the right brain is through play. So if you're going to keep play out, then you are going to have children who are going to forget things, not learn things, then you'll send them for tuitions, then they'll buy hard things and all that. Come out of this, merry-go-round, and just realize that the best way to make a smart child is through the right brain, and the right brain thrives on play. If you explain this simplicity to a parent, I'm sure parents are not foolish enough to ignore a simple fact like this. But I think schools lack this knowledge. Schools, teachers are not able to convince parents about the importance of play because they themselves don't know why play. And that is what we need to do. We need to explain to parents how it's going to help their child and not why the school believes in it. A parent is not worried about what the school believes in. The parent wants to know why for my child. And that is the reasoning. Once you give it to a parent understands. And another thing, Preeti, what I have seen is schools that promote play, promote it as a competition to learning. Play is not a competition to learning. Play doesn't mean that, oh, we will have no learning, we will have only play. Play is actually the way in which children learn. So the learning is going to happen. Your reading, your writing, your number work will happen, but it will happen so effortlessly because it's happening through play. That is a message that is being misunderstood, I think, by a lot of parents.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think I cannot agree with you more on this. So this month, the children at Tapas, they are working on a project called the Sensory Wonderland. And they're actually building a wonderland for senses at home. So they have some small smelling stations. They have touch tablets that they have all built. And that they are going to charge the parents and friends and family to come, and they're going to have tickets, and they get, it's like a whole theme park of senses that they have created. The journey has been fantastic to see how these children are learning through play because they are exploring themselves. And so exactly what you said, the science, the math, the English, everything is getting developed through that simple play that they're engaging in. And so from theory to practice, we are seeing it happen. And that gives us a lot of joy at Tapas.
Absolutely.
So considering what you've been saying so far, I think that there is somewhere a misconnect or a disconnect between the way the teachers are being trained for education, whether it's our B.Ed or our M.Ed programs, and what is really required of it. Do you believe that a revamp is due?
A revamp was due when I did my B.Ed. And I did my B.Ed almost 15 years back. And I did it just out of curiosity because I was an early childhood teacher, and I didn't need to do a B.Ed course because I had already done my early childhood qualification. But I wanted to know that my child, who I teach in the early years, ultimately goes to the primary and the secondary. How do those teachers teach my child? That is what I was very curious about. And when I enrolled for B.Ed, I was shocked, Preeti, because my majors were English and history. So I majored in English and history, and um, I had students with me who said they will teach us English, right? So I said, what? They don't teach you English. They teach you how to teach English. So, but they said my grammar is weak. So I thought, they will groom me on grammar, and they will groom me to understand. And that got me thinking that actually what she's saying is actually right. That when a student joins a B.Ed college, how are you assuming that this person knows everything about English? What about the technicalities of the English language? I think that the students should be trained on that. That just like in early childhood, we train the student to understand how the child develops, etc. Shouldn't we be talking to these students on how to teach, not only how to teach geography, but what to teach in geography? And I think that is an element that's missing, because we are assuming that the people who come to B.Ed colleges know the English language, they know the history, and we are now training them to become teachers. And I knew so many of them who did not know history. You'll be surprised. I'll give you two examples of what I saw during my B.Ed college, because we had to do peer assessments, which means we go and sit in another student's class. And this student was doing a class because she was teaching in a Gujarati school, and her topic was Tipu Sultan. And she took a glass of water for her introduction, and I'm wondering, where is she headed? What has Tipu Sultan got to do with a glass of water? And she put a finger in it, and she raised the finger with a drop of water on it. And in Gujarati she asked, "Asu che," which means what is this? And the children said Tipu, because in Gujarati a drop is called Tipu. Okay. And she said, yes. So we are going to learn about Tipu Sultan. And I was like, oh my God. I said, this is her introduction. She has taken children to a mindset of water, and then she brought them to connect it to Tipu Sultan. So can you imagine? These are the teachers who are doing their B.Ed course. I had another student with me who said, Swati, I want to do a party in my class. So I said, why? So she's telling, because I'm going to be talking about the Boston Tea Party. So I said, that wasn't a celebration. That wasn't a party. Have you read on it? So it's very important to understand. Now look at that. That teacher would have read Boston Tea Party on that day, and she would go the next day and teach the children.
Right.
So what are we doing? What are we doing? If we are saying children are rote learning, your teachers are also rote learning. Right. So the B.Ed course not only needs a revamp, it needs a huge revamp. It needs to now train teachers who are, say, if I'm majoring in English and history, they should teach me English, how it starts, how do you teach it, what is grammar, because don't expect these girls or boys who come to know all this. Right. And that is one of the lacunas which has not been addressed in the B.Ed program or any other program. And till we don't sort that, we will still have teachers who learn about the topic a day prior and go and do this Tipu Sultan Giri in the classroom, really.
Oh my God, that's just mind-blowing how it can be taught that way. Oh my God. Right. So I think we just assume that the baseline of the teachers coming into B.Ed programs are going to be of a higher.
Or test it, no? Or test it as an entrance exam. Yeah. As an entrance exam, if you are saying, if I want to qualify in English, test my English knowledge. Ask me basic questions in grammar, which I'm going to ultimately go and teach a primary school child. So test me. And if I know English, then take me in the college, or as a college, prepare me to be that English teacher, You're teaching me how to teach, but you are not grooming me on what to teach. And I think the what is as important as the why and the how.
Absolutely, ma'am. I couldn't agree there more. Absolutely, ma'am. So, from the pandemic, that this last 1.5 years that we have all gone through, what have been the biggest takeaways for you, both personally and professionally?
Personally, I learned how to stay with a human being 24/7, which I had never done in my life. My husband and I were always away for some time in the day. Both of us are at the office. Both of us travel a lot. So, marriage was more like a part-time thing, With the pandemic, it was like you are into each other's pocket 24/7. There is no escape. So you actually nurture your relationship by seeing both sides of that person, you actually make the adjustments, you actually learn how to coexist. And that was one of the biggest learning personally for me. Professionally, I realized two things. Number one, I think we spend too much of money and time on traveling for conferences and stuff like that, and for meetings, and we just take a flight and we go for a 10-minute meeting and we waste hours at the airport. And I think some things can be done online. And I think we should be now more open to doing things online rather than always having physical events. Uh, that is something that was a huge realization for me, that by doing things online during the pandemic, I had so much of time to do other things.
Right.
And that is what I feel we lost sight of pre-pandemic. That became our life, taking flights, traveling, spending time on useless things. I think it recalibrated our priorities in life. And I feel nobody's talking about it, but I think people will realize the importance of real estate. uh, some people don't need to come to office. I think some people can work from home. I mean, this culture of bringing everybody together to sit in one office and everybody has to sit there from 9 to 5. I think it should evaporate now. Only people who need to come to offices, like accountants and stuff like that, should be reporting to office. Other people should be allowed to work from home. It saves you space. It saves you this so much of crowding and money spent on travel, petrol spent. I mean, it's going to save you so many things, So yeah, these were some of the things that changed for me, and I realized during the pandemic.
Yes, and going by that, I'm sure even the traffic will come down, both at Mumbai and
Yeah,
Bangalore. We need that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you see, everybody is going to the office. I mean, for what? You can do, I realized by making my staff work from home, I got more better work from them, because they were at peace at home with their children. They were able to attend to things that usually sitting in office, they don't have that flexibility to do that. It empowered them much more, and I got better results from them. And now when I think of reopening, I feel, why am I taking some people back to the office? They can work from home. But I think we have this mindset as Indians that till we don't see a person chained to the office desk and chair, we don't think that person is working,
Yeah.
So I think that needs to change.
True, ma'am. So we are coming out of this pandemic. I'm sure there are some transitions that children and parents will have to make in the next few months. Hopefully, schools will reopen, even the earliest will reopen. Any tips on how they can cope with this transition?
So, Preeti, I was just doing an article yesterday for Brain Feed magazine, and I identified two things that we are not talking about, but we will require. We will need to focus on impulse control and self-regulation. Because think about it, Preeti, our socio-emotional development is geared towards being with others, touching things, smiling at people. Now, when we go to school, when the schools open, children will have to be told not to sit next to somebody, okay? Not to remove their masks, not to touch people. So you are trying to make them behave completely contrary to their socio-emotional developmental needs. As human beings, we want to touch, we want to handshake, we want to hug, we want to high five, we want to where we want to see the other person's expression when they are speaking. So we automatically pull our mask down when we are trying to talk to somebody. So we are doing things which are completely opposite to our natural instincts. And that is where the grooming comes in of impulse control and self-regulation. Children will have to be trained in games, which will help them understand how to control their impulse, how to become their own regulators. Because for how long will you supervise whether the child is wearing the mask, whether the children are maintaining social distancing? It will have to become internalized. And if we don't focus on these two things as activities, so I've elaborated in the article about the games you can play with children to help them develop impulse control. So they come to know that I'm feeling an impulse and it's time for me to stop. Because otherwise, you will have children removing their masks and you'll have children falling sick all over again. And then we'll blame the school for it. And then we'll stop their education. So instead of that, it's very important for parents and teachers to understand that we have to kind of recalibrate their thinking. So impulse control and self-regulation will have to be enhanced in children for them to be able to survive post-pandemic.
That's a brilliant advice, ma'am. We're going to look forward to that article so that we can play those games with our children, definitely.
Yes.
And it's something that all parents should do and all schools should do. So that is something
Absolutely.
We will also
Absolutely.
widely spread that around, definitely. So, ma'am, last thoughts about parenting, about education, about life in general. Just capturing your last.
I think we need more tapas. It's very important for parents, schools, teachers to understand that it's easy to conform. It's easy to conform that, oh, this is how things are. This is what parents want, or this is how it will be. It's very difficult to deviate. And isn't it sad that to the people who are actually doing the real education, we are calling them deviates, So we're saying it's a different kind of education. It's not different. It is what education was supposed to be. What is being practiced is what is different. So it is something that, brings me back to my chapter, which I have written in the Frederick Frobel book called Once Upon a Gift, that this is not what education was supposed to be. And now the schools who are doing what education is supposed to be, we are calling them different education. They are not, they are the real ones. They are the actual ones, So it is very, very important to understand that going forward, we will have to rethink what we want for our children. I think happiness is what parents have realized, that health and happiness are the two things that are most important. That are only two things that help you in this world. People who had marks or grades not necessarily got jobs or did well during the pandemic. It is people who had resilience. It's people who had a positivity. It is people who had cognitive flexibility are the ones who did well. So I think it's time for parents to understand that the experience of education is more important than the grades and the marks and the, qualifications. So I think that's what schools like yours are doing. And I wish there are more of them. I hope that in the future there will be a tapas at least in every city, so that every child can benefit from this kind of a school. And I hope and pray, Preeti, that when tapas does not lose sight of what it is, because I have seen many schools when they become famous, they start conforming to what parents want. And that is what I would advise, be wary of. Convince the parents to be with you rather than trying to fall in line with what parents want, because parents sometimes get confused. They think what's happening elsewhere is the right way. So it's very important to stay on that path, because what you have done is something so brilliant, something so needed, uh, and something that's going to be so cherished by these children when they pass out from your school.
It's an absolute pleasure, ma'am, to hear that from you. It's really validating about what we are doing. And you're right. I think we need to keep sight of what we have started this for. And I'm sure with your mentoring, your advice going forward as well, we will keep sight of that. We will definitely not lose sight of that.
It's my honor to always be there for Tapas.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's been a pleasure having you on Tapas Talkies, and we hope and wish that we will see you in person soon and be able to take you around the Tapas campus. And
I would
really
love
excited to do that.
I would love that. Looking forward to that.
Thank you so much for your time. I know that it has been difficult to take time out, but we are really, really grateful for these
I
few years that
enjoyed
you
it.
shared with us.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And I wish your parents, the teachers, all of you in the management, and all the children the very best.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye.